In 2008, I carried my brother's flag-draped casket at Arlington Cemetery. We buried an empty box because the Taliban never returned his body. For 15 years, I visited his grave every Memorial Day. Then last month, a stranger sent me a photo that proved our whole lives were a lie. Were a lie. If you believe some stories are too unbelievable to be true, hit subscribe right now. Because what I'm about to tell you will challenge everything you think you know about war, loss, and miracles. I read every comment, so tell me what country you're watching from. And if you've ever lost someone you love, let me know with a like. The sandstorm was eating us alive. That's what I remember most about June 14th, 2008. The way the Afghan dust stripped the paint from our Humvees and filled our mouths with the taste of dead earth. My younger brother, Corporal Ben Crawford, was riding in the lead vehicle. I was 2 trucks back, commanding the convoy. We were 20 miles outside Kandahar, delivering medical supplies to a remote village. Ben had volunteered for the mission. It's what Mom would have wanted, he'd said the night before, smiling that reckless smile that always got him into trouble and out of it again. We were twins, but not identical. Ben was 2 minutes younger and forever trying to prove something. I was the careful one, the planner. He was the heart, I was the head. Our squad called us the bookends. Same DNA, different stories. The wide that hit Ben's Humvee didn't explode so much as erupt. The desert itself seemed to rise up and swallow the vehicle whole. When the dust cleared, there was a crater where the front truck had been. No survivors. At least that's what the initial report said. We recovered 3 bodies. Ben wasn't among them. The Army listed him as missing, presumed dead. They told us the blast was so intense, sometimes nothing remains. For 6 months, we held out hope. Then on Christmas Eve 2008, they delivered the official notice. Killed in action. We buried an empty casket at Arlington. Full military honors. 21-gun salute. Taps echoing through the Virginia hills. My mother collapsed against the coffin. My father never spoke again. Not really. He died 2 years later of what the doctor called heart failure, but what I knew was a broken heart. I left the Army in 2010. The military had taken my brother and my father. I couldn't let it take me too. For 15 years, I built a life around the absence. I became a history teacher. Ironic, since I was living in my own personal history that refused to stay in the past. Every Memorial Day, I visited Section 60, Grave 8942. I'd place flowers, salute, and talk to the empty ground. I'm sorry, Ben. I should have been in that lead vehicle. Later. It should have been me. The nightmares were constants, not of the explosion itself, but of the moments before. Ben turning to wave at me through the dust. Me nodding back. Our last communication. 2 brothers saying goodbye without knowing it. Then, 3 months ago, everything changed. It was a rainy Tuesday in March. I was grading papers when an email arrived from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line, about your brother. I almost deleted it. I'd gotten enough scams from people claiming to have information about Ben, but something made me open it. There was no text. Just a single photograph attached, grainy, taken from a distance. A man with a beard standing in a marketplace somewhere hot and dusty. He was older, thin, his face lined with what looked like decades of hard living. But the eyes, God, the eyes, guys, they were Ben's eyes, my mother's eyes, my eyes. And on his left forearm, visible even in the poor resolution, was the scar from when we were 12 and he fell out of the oak tree trying to save a kitten. The zigzag pattern I'd recognize anywhere. My hand shook so badly I spilled coffee across my desk. Death. I zoomed in, my heart hammering against my ribs. It was him. It was impossible, but it was him. The email had come from a Proton Mail account. Untraceable, I replied immediately. Who are you? Where is this? When was this taken? No response. Days passed. Nothing. I contacted my old Army connections. A retired intelligence officer I served with, now working private security. Mike, he said after looking at the photo. This looks like the border region between Pakistan and Afghanistan. But if this is really Ben, how and why now? That's when I made the decision that would either save my brother or destroy whatever was left of my sanity. I was going back. At 41 years old, with a bad knee and 15 years of civilian life between me and my last combat experience, I was going to find a ghost. The passport said I was a cultural researcher. The backpack contained survival gear, cash in 3 currencies, and the printed photograph that had upended my life. My contact in Islamabad, a former interpreter named Rafi, who I'd saved from a Taliban checkpoint in 2009, met me at the airport. "Captain," he said, embracing me, "you look old. Feel older," I said. I showed him the photo. His face went pale. "This is in Parachinar, Pakistan side, but very close to border. Very dangerous area. Taliban, smugglers, intelligence agents from 3 countries all watching. Can you get me there?" He studied me for a long moment. "For you, yes, but you must understand. If this is your brother, he may not be the brother you remember. The mountains, they change men." The journey to Parachinar took 2 days. With dusty roads, checkpoints where teenage boys with ancient AK-47s eyed us with bored suspicion, the town was exactly as Rafi described, a frontier outpost where the rules were written in shadows. We took a room in a guest house with thin walls and the constant smell of cooking oil and diesel. Rafi began making inquiries, showing the photo to shopkeepers, tea vendors, anyone who might have seen the man in the picture. Most shrugged, some looked nervously away. One old man selling carpets whispered, "The American ghost. He comes on Fridays to buy supplies. Friday, 3 days away." I spent them walking the narrow streets, my senses heightened to every detail. The call to prayer echoing from minarets, the smell of non-baking in mud ovens, the children who stared at the strange Westerner with too much intensity in his eyes. On the second day, a boy no older than 10 slipped a note into my hand as I passed. It read, in shaky English, "He is not what he seems. Leave while you can." When I looked up, the boy had vanished. Friday dawned hot and still. Rafi and I positioned ourselves at the tea shop opposite the market's main entrance. Hours passed. The sun climbed, baking the stones. Then at precisely noon, I saw him. He emerged from an alley between 2 crumbling buildings. Taller than I remembered, thinner, moving with the cautious grace of a man who has learned that survival is a continuous calculation. The beard was longer than in the photo, streaked with gray. But the way he walked, that slight hitch in his right step from the football injury in high school, it was him. It was Ben. I stood up so fast I knocked over my tea. "Ben!" I shouted, the word tearing from my throat. Across the square he froze. His head turned slowly. Our eyes met across 15 years of graves and grief and empty memorial days. For a second, nothing existed but that space between us. Then his face, my face, registered not joy, not recognition, but pure terror. He turned and ran. "Ben, wait!" I pushed through the crowd, ignoring Rafi's shouts behind me. Ben disappeared into the maze of alleys. I followed, my bad knee screaming in protest. He was fast, knowing the terrain. I was fueled by something beyond pain, desperate primal need. Around a corner, down a flight of stone steps, through a fabric market where colorful silks flapped like warning flags. Then I rounded another corner and found myself in a dead-end courtyard. Ben stood with his back against a wall, breathing hard. In his hand was a knife. "Stay back," he said in English, but with an accent I didn't recognize, not American, something else, something fractured. "Ben, it's me, Mike, your brother." I took a step forward, hands raised. "We buried you. Mom died thinking you were dead. What happened?" The knife didn't waver. I'm not who you think I am. You have the scar," I said, pointing to his arm. "The oak tree, the kitten, you named her Whiskers." Something flickered in his eyes, a crack in the wall. "Mike?" The name came out as a question, as if he was remembering a language he'd once spoken. "Yes." "God, yes. Ben?" "Yes, Ben." Tears streamed down my face. "Come home. Whatever happened, we'll fix it." He lowered the knife slightly. "You don't understand. They didn't take my body because there was no body to take." The blast threw me clear. I woke up in a cave with a broken leg and men speaking Pashto. They were Taliban, but not the ones you fight. A faction that trades in hostages. For 6 months they moved me from place to place. Then one night the compound was raided by a different group. Pakistani intelligence. They didn't see me as a rescue. They saw me as an opportunity. What opportunity? A soldier who was officially dead? A ghost? Perfect for deniable operations. They gave me a choice. Work for them or disappear forever. I chose to disappear, but not the way they meant. I escaped during a transfer. Been living in these mountains ever since. Married a local woman. Have 2 children. Mike, I have a life here. The world tilted. The world tilted. All those years of mourning. All those visits to an empty grave. And he'd been here, building a family. Living. Why didn't you contact us? Ever? At first, I couldn't. Then I saw what they did to soldiers who came home after being imprisoned. The interviews, the suspicion, the whispers about Stockholm Syndrome. And my family here, they'd be targets. You think the people who made me disappear would let me just walk away? I took another step. We were close enough now that I could see the details, the lines around his eyes that weren't from laughter, the way he held himself like a man expecting a blow at any moment. This was my brother, but also a stranger. Come home, Ben. We'll figure it out. I have friends, lawyers, people who can help. For a long moment, he just stared at me. Then he did something I'll remember until the day I die. He smiled. Not the reckless grin of the boy who volunteered for the lead Humvee, but a sad, weary smile of a man who has made peace with his ghosts. I am home, Mike. This is where I landed. This is where I grew roots. You have to let me go. Again. I can't, I whispered. Not again. You have to. For me. For my children. Go back to Arlington. Tell them. Tell them the grave is real. Because the brother you knew really did die in that explosion. What's left is someone else. Someone who needs to stay here. Behind me, Raffi appeared at the courtyard entrance, breathing hard. We must go. People are asking questions. Ben's eyes met mine one last time. Goodbye, Mike. This time, for real. Then he was gone, slipping through a doorway hadn't noticed, vanishing back into the shadows that had kept him alive for 15 years. I stood there empty. Raffi put a hand on my shoulder. Captain, we must leave. Now. The flight home was a blur. I went straight from the airport to Arlington. Section 60, grave 8942. I stood before the headstone, Benjamin James Crawford, Corporal, U.S. Army, Afghanistan. Beloved son and brother. I knelt in the grass, the same spot where I'd knelt 100 times before. But this time was different. This time, I wasn't talking to memory. I was talking to choice. To a brother who chose a different kind of life. To a man who chose to protect his new family over returning to his old one. I understand, I said to the stone. And in that moment I did. Sometimes coming home isn't about geography. It's about where you can breathe without looking over your shoulder, where your children can play without fear. Ben had found that. Who was I to take it from him? So I made my own choice. I told our sister that the photo was a hoax, that I'd chased a ghost and found only shadows. That Ben was really gone. It was the hardest lie I've ever told, but also the most truthful. Because the brother I grew up with, the one who fell out of oak trees and volunteered for lead convoys, he did die in that desert. The man in the mountains with his new name and new family, he deserved his peace. Last month, a package arrived with no return address. Inside was a single photograph. A man with a beard smiling with a woman and 2 children beside him. On the back, in handwriting I'd recognize anywhere, "We're okay. Thank you for letting go." I keep that photo in my desk drawer, not to look at every day, but to know it's there. Proof that sometimes miracles aren't about getting back what you lost. They're about learning that what you lost might have found something better, that graves can be both empty and full at the same time. That brothers can be both dead and alive, depending on which truth you need to believe. I thought that was the end of the story. I really did. I returned to my teaching job, tried to settle back into a life that now felt both heavier and lighter. Heavy with a secret I'd carry forever. Light because I no longer visited a grave to apologize. Instead, I visited to update my brother on the world he'd left behind. The Patriots won another Super Bowl, I'd tell the headstone. Mom's rosebush finally bloomed. I'm dating someone. She's a librarian. You'd hate her. She's sensible. Then 6 weeks ago, the second email arrived. Same Proton mail address. This time, there was text. They found me. Need extraction. 1 week. Coordinates attached. Come alone or not at all. The coordinates pointed to a location in the tribal areas, even more remote than Parachinar. I stared at the screen for an hour, my coffee going cold. Every rational bone in my body said no. I was a history teacher with a bad knee and a mortgage, not Jason Bourne. But the bone that mattered, the one that remembered holding my brother's hand as we crossed the street on our first day of kindergarten, that bone said something else. I called Raffi. I need to go back. His sigh traveled 8,000 miles through the phone line. Captain, this is not a good idea. That area, it is where governments go to lose people. He's my brother. Yes, and you are my friend, which is why I will say this once. Prepare properly this time. Wait, and say your goodbyes. Just in case. The preparations took 5 days. I liquidated savings, bought gear from tactical suppliers who didn't ask questions, told my girlfriend I was going on a silent meditation retreat, lied to my principal about a family emergency. Every lie felt like a stone added to the backpack I was already carrying. On the flight to Islamabad, I studied the maps Raffi had sent. The extraction point was a valley accessible only by foot, 10 miles from the nearest road. No cell service, no quick exits. A perfect place for an ambush or a reunion. I wasn't sure which was more likely. Raffi met me with a car and 2 men I didn't recognize. "These are my cousins," he said. "They know the area, they know the risks." The younger one, maybe 20, nodded at me. The older one just stared, his face all angles and shadows. We drove through the night, headlights off for long stretches, following dirt tracks that weren't on any map. Dawn found us at a trailhead in mountains so steep they seemed to lean against the sky. "From here we walk," Raffi said. The hike was brutal. Thin air, loose scree that slid underfoot, the constant sense of being watched. Twice we saw herdsmen in the distance, their faces turned toward us like weather vanes. Once the sound of a distant engine, too regular for a tractor, too isolated for a normal vehicle. Military or militant. Either way, trouble. We reached the coordinates at twilight. A ruined stone hut, half collapsed, clinging to the mountainside like a barnacle. No sign of life. "Wait here," I told Raffi and his cousins. "If you hear shooting, leave. Don't come for me, Captain. That's an order. Old habits." I approached the hut alone, my hand on the pistol in my jacket. The door was a piece of rusted metal leaning against the opening. I pushed it aside. "Ben?" A figure emerged from the shadows. But it wasn't Ben. It was the woman from the photograph, his wife. She held a crying baby against her shoulder. Her eyes were wide with fear. "You are Mike?" "Yes." "Where's Ben?" "Taken, 3 days ago. Men came in the night. He told me if this happened to send the email. To wait here for you." Her English was halting but clear. "He said you would know what to do." My heart sank. "Who took him?" She shook her head. "The ones who never stopped looking. The ones from the government. He said they would come eventually, that he was a loose end." The baby's cries echoed in the small space. Behind me, Raffi appeared in the doorway. He took in the scene, his face grim. "We cannot stay here." "This place is not safe." "Where are his other children?" I asked the woman. "With my sister, in a village down the valley. Safe for now." We moved that night, descending into a gorge where a stream masked our noise. The woman, her name was Aisha, told me their story as we walked. How Ben had stumbled into her family's compound 8 years ago, feverish from an infected wound. How her father, a village elder, had hidden him. How they'd fallen in love slowly over months of stolen glances and shared chores. How Ben had embraced Islam, taken the name Ibrahim. How he'd become a teacher in the village school, respected, even loved. "He missed you," she said. Sometimes he would look at the stars and say, "My brother is looking at these same stars." Did he ever talk about coming home, to America? Only in dreams. He said that man was gone. But the brother was always here. She touched her chest. We reached her sister's village at dawn, a cluster of mud brick houses clinging to a cliff face. The children, a boy of 6 and a girl of 4, ran to Aisha. They had Ben's eyes. My eyes. My eyes. Looking at them was like looking into a twisted mirror of what might have been. Raffi's older cousin spoke with the village men. The news was bad. Pakistani intelligence had been asking questions in the region, offering money for information about the American. Someone had talked. They'd taken Ben to a military outpost 20 miles to the east, a place known for people going in and not coming out. "We can't assault a military base," I said to Raffi, stating the obvious. "No," he agreed, "but we might be able to buy him." Buy him. Everything here is a transaction. Even people. It took 2 days to arrange the meeting, 2 days of hiding in a root cellar while Aisha's family brought us food and news. On the 3rd day, Raffi returned from a nearby town with a man in a tailored suit that looked absurd against the mountain backdrop. "This is Colonel Abbas," Raffi said. "Retired. He has connections." The colonel looked me up and down. "You are the brother. You look like him. You've seen him. Is he alive?" "He is, unharmed. They are deciding what to do with him. He is an embarrassment. Proof of a failed operation. Such proofs are usually buried. Literally. Name your price." The colonel smiled. "It is not about money. It is about value. What is an American life worth, especially one that does not officially exist?" Oh, what do you want? A trade. They have your brother. I have a nephew in a prison in Virginia. Drug charges, 10-year sentence. Get him released, transferred to Pakistani custody, and your brother walks free. The absurdity of it, a geopolitical trade in a mud hut in the middle of nowhere, almost made me laugh. I'm a teacher, not a senator. This is Colonel Abbas, Rafi said. Retired, he has connections. The colonel looked me up and down. You're the brother. You look like him. You've seen him? Is he alive? He is, unharmed. They are deciding what to do with him. He is an embarrassment, proof of a failed operation. Such proofs are usually buried. Literally, name your price. The colonel smiled. It is not about money. It is about value. What is an American life worth? Especially one that does not officially exist. What do you want? A trade? They have your brother. I have a nephew in a prison in Virginia. Drug charges, 10-year sentence. Get him released, transferred to Pakistani custody, and your brother walks free. The absurdity of it, a geopolitical trade in a mud hut in the middle of nowhere, almost made me laugh. I'm a teacher, not a senator. You have connections, veterans groups, media. The story of an American pal left behind could be compelling or embarrassing, depending on who tells it. He had me. He knew it. I need proof of life, recent. The colonel produced a phone, played a 5-second video. Ben sitting in a concrete room, looking tired but unhurt. He looked directly at the camera. Mike, if you're seeing this, don't do anything stupid. Then the video cut off. That was Ben, even in captivity, trying to protect me. How long do I have? 1 month. After that, decisions will be made that cannot be unmade. The flight home was a haze of planning. I reached out to everyone I'd ever served with, called in favors I didn't know I had, a JAG officer I'd served with, now working for a powerful senator, a journalist from the Washington Post who'd written about veterans' issues, my local congressman who happened to be on the Armed Services Committee. The story we crafted was careful. An American veteran, captured and presumed dead, had been discovered alive in Pakistan. He was being held by elements within Pakistani intelligence. The U.S. government had a moral obligation to bring him home. We left out the part about him having a family, about him not wanting to come home. Some truths are too complicated for headlines. The pressure worked. Quietly, through back channels, the nephew's transfer was arranged. A humanitarian repatriation. I received the email confirmation 3 weeks to the day after my return. One word, done. I flew back alone this time. Rafi met me at the airport, his face grim. There is a problem. What problem? The colonel's nephew was transferred. But your brother, he was moved. The colonel says it was not his doing, that others in the intelligence service intervened. They want more. More what? Information. Your brother worked for them for months before he escaped. He knows names, methods, locations. They think he has been working for the Americans all along, that his discovery was not an accident. The world narrowed to a single point of cold fury. Where is he? We don't know. But Aisha, she has disappeared too. The children are safe with her sister. But she went to find him 2 days ago. No word. We drove through the night again, back to the mountains, back to the village. Aisha's sister confirmed it. Aisha had left after receiving a message from someone claiming to have information about Ben. She hadn't returned. The message had come through a village elder's phone. Rafi traced the number to a town 50 miles away, closer to the Afghan border, a place known for smugglers and disappearances. We went there, asking questions in tea shops and market stalls. A man selling cigarettes finally pointed us to a compound on the edge of town. Whoa. The ones who ask no questions and answer none, he said. The compound had high walls and a metal gate. Rafi's cousins scouted the perimeter. 4 guards, 2 at the gate, 2 on the roof. Armed. We go in at night, I said. You are not a soldier anymore, Captain. I'm a brother. That's harder to retire from. The plan was simple. Distraction at the front gate. Rafi's cousins creating noise with a motorcycle and fireworks they'd bought in the market. While the guards were occupied, I'd go over the back wall. Find Ben and Usha. Get out. Simple. And stupid. But sometimes stupid is all you have. The fireworks exploded at exactly 2 a.m. Gunshots of color against the black sky. Shouts from the front gate. I went over the back wall, dropping into a courtyard filled with junked car parts. A guard stood smoking near a doorway. I moved behind him the way I'd been taught in a different life. A quick, quiet takedown. He went down without a sound. The doorway led to a corridor. Empty rooms to either side. Then a staircase descending. I followed it down to a basement. A single bulb illuminated 2 cells. In one, Ben. In the other, Aisha. Ben looked up as I approached. His face was bruised, but his eyes were clear. "Mike, you shouldn't have come." Family motto. I examined the lock. Old, rusted. A sturdy kick broke it. Ben emerged, embracing me briefly, fiercely. Then he went to Aisha's cell, breaking that lock too. "We have to move," I said. "Rafi's creating a distraction, but it won't last." We were almost to the courtyard when the shooting started. Not fireworks this time, real gunfire. Rifles. We ducked behind a burned-out car shell. Ben peered over the hood. 4 men advancing from the gate. Rafi's pinned down near the wall. I had my pistol. Ben had nothing. Asha crouched behind us, her face calm. "There is a tunnel," she said. "Old smuggler's route in the floor of the last cell." We moved back inside just as bullets chipped the doorway stone, down to the basement again. Aisha showed us a section of floor that lifted away, a hidden hatch. "My cousin told me of this place. He used it years ago." We dropped into darkness. The tunnel smelled of damp earth and diesel. We moved by feel, one hand on the wall. Behind us, shouts echoed. They'd found the hatch. The tunnel emerged in a dry creek bed half a mile from the compound. We collapsed in the gravel, breathing hard. In the distance, more gunfire, then silence. Rafi found us an hour later, his arm bleeding from a graze. The cousins are leading them on a chase through the hills. We must go, now. The extraction was chaos. A borrowed truck with a failing transmission. Checkpoints avoided through back roads. A flight on a cargo plane whose pilot asked no questions for enough cash. And then, suddenly, we were in Dubai, in an airport hotel, a safe. Ben sat on the edge of the bed, holding Asha's hand. The children brought by Rafi's network slept in the next room. "What now?" Ben asked. "That's up to you." I said, "You can come home. The story is already out. American POW rescued. You'll be a hero, or you can disappear again. New names, new lives somewhere else, but you can't go back to the mountains. They'll keep looking." Ben looked at Aisha, at the closed door behind which his children slept. "I'm tired of hiding," he said quietly, "but I won't be a circus animal for the media, and I won't leave my family." "We can make conditions," I said. "No media, protection, a fresh start, but in America." Asha spoke softly to Ben in Pashto. He listened, then nodded. "We will come, but on our terms, and you will be there. To help us, remember how to be American." That was 6 months ago. Ben and his family live in a small town in Montana now, far from media, far from memories. He works as a carpenter. The children are in school, learning English with dizzying speed. Aisha tends a garden that reminds her of home. Sometimes late at night, Ben calls me. We don't talk about the mountains or the grave or the 15 years in between. We talk about baseball, about our mother's recipes, about nothing at all. And that's everything. I still visit Arlington sometimes, but now I don't talk to a headstone. I send updates to a brother who can finally receive them. The grave is still there, of course. A memorial to a life that was and a life that might have been. But it's not a place of grief anymore. It's a place of gratitude, for second chances, for brothers who come back, for stories that don't end when you think they do. If you're watching this and you've lost someone, not to death, but to distance, to time, to circumstances, don't stop hoping. Don't stop looking. Miracles aren't always clean. They don't always look like what you expect. Sometimes they're messy and painful and require crossing mountains you never wanted to climb, but they're out there, in the places between lost and found, in the eyes of a stranger who shares your scar, in the love that survives even when the person seems gone forever. Hit subscribe if you believe in impossible reunions. Comment below where you're watching from, and if you've ever found something you thought was lost forever, hit like. Because sometimes the stories that seem too unbelievable to be true are the truest ones we have.